Well, good afternoon. This is Jim Whitehead. How are you? Today I am Power Coffee News. And boy, do I have news for and related to coffee. The year is 2077. And I know I won't be here, but that's okay. You will be probably. In a cave is the only remaining coffee or question. The preface to this whole process today is right now, it's amazing, of course, how people love their coffee. And unfortunately, due to tariffs, which make no sense, we are all paying more for our coffee. Now, this is kind of what could happen because, again, coffee is so valuable. And I've mentioned that what is happening due to tariffs, but related or not related in a sense, is related to climate change. The best beans, we call them Arabica. The next bean that, we can talk about also is Robusta. But Arabica, it needs to be in a cooler environment for growth, meaning that with the coffee belt that pretty much surrounds the earth around the equator, Arabica coffee, the best coffee beans are grown at anywhere from 3,000 up of square feet. So as our climate is warming, a farmer might say, well, I was able to do my good Arabica growth and my trees at 3,000 square feet. Due to climate change, I've lost that whole 3,000 square feet, and now I only can grow at 4,000 square feet and above. Now, what my presentation today is, this isn't going to get better. And coffee is such a popular commodity. And it's not that in general, people say, well, I used to drink, regular coffee, but I'm drinking something that is artificial, that tastes good. I'm not saying that can't happen, but it's one of those things where let's try to work on not having where a lot of the coffee growers around the world are losing land capability in a sense of height for growing great coffee beans. Now, this story, it's not real, but it could be, is related to what progresses to the extent that there isn't the coffee that we want or need, or it's so beyond our capability of being able to buy it. So what we're showing here is a picture of the remaining coffee beans in a cave, and you'll see there's some sinister aspects to this, dishonesty, people trying to capitalize. As you know, unfortunately, people do sometimes work on things that would benefit them and not benefit you and I. So This again is 2077. In the near future, where all coffee is bland, genetically uniform corporate product, a disgraced coffee, I'm saying sommelier, with a uniquely sensitive palate is hired to authenticate a mythical batch of wild coffee. So you're seeing again coffee now in 2077 has no taste. And we're going to tell you, related to corporate greed, who got us to this problem. Anyway, the great person who is working on this, he soon discovers the bean hold a dangerous secret that could either save humanity or destroy it, forcing him to run from the very corporation that controls, and that's the key word, the world's supply. And you're going to see the name of the company in just a minute, but they have cornered the market and are doing coffee beans that are not anywhere near the variety, the choice, and the taste is not what it is and can be today. I mean, I'll be the first one to admit, I was a coffee roaster, and I'm going to be a coffee roaster again, but it can get to where there's not a lot of choices right now. I mean, we can buy coffee from Ethiopia, Sumatra, Vietnam. I can go on and on and on. And again, it is, how would you say, a problem because of the way, as I said, the climate is changing. Okay. Part 1, the bitter beginning. The world introduced a world in 2077 recovering from the Great Blight, which wiped out all Arabica and Robusta coffee. So, and just to explain Robusta a little bit, that Robusta are not bad beans. They're grown and can be grown at much lower altitudes. And depending on how you roast and prepare them, they could potentially be more bitter. But the neatest thing with brewing, it can be, you can kind of overcome a lot of the problems of Robusta versus the top tier Arabica. But, I've actually never roasted Robusta. I don't want to sound like a coffee snob, but luckily, we're not in a situation where we can't buy Arabica because of different things. Now, of course, this whole issue is where in that 2077, a company has, monopolized coffee, and it's like you either buy our coffee and like it or you don't buy coffee. Anyway, this is the company, and it's not a real company, but it's a company that has capitalized on having where if you want any coffee at all, you got to buy their beans. And again, they don't taste very well or good at all. So as they're trying to say, Aurora Corp saved the day by creating Integra Brew, and there is their what they're selling. And again, at this point, they have capitalized, and basically all the beans or all the coffees, if you want to have coffee, you buy from them. And, you know, how they try to describe is that it's blight resistant. Blight meaning, you know, a bad thing happens to the coffee and as it's growing and in production. But it's blight resistant, genetically uniform coffee plant. So some would say, well, what's so bad about that? Well, remember, they're the only ones that have it. They're the only ones that are producing it. And again, as I said earlier, you either buy from them, and whether it's you like it or hate it, that's the choice you have. It provides caffeine, and now again, a lot of people, including myself, we drink coffee in the morning kind of to wake up. Even though I love it, I only have one coffee in the morning. I've been tempted to go to more than one, but, you know, it's one of those things where you're going to buy the coffee in today's world. And again, as I said, the prices have gone up. It provides caffeine, as I said, but lacks all the nuance, flavor, and soul of real coffee. So, you know, it's like either you drink their coffee, you don't drink coffee. So it definitely is capitalizing and, in essence, hurting the public. Because you know darn well, if they are the only company that you can buy coffee from, you're not going to get it at a great price. And as described, it's not very good. Owning or cultivating unauthorized botanical material is a serious crime. So now it's gone even further that this company has, where they now have it, if anybody says, hey, you know, I'm going to be, without anybody knowing, I'm going to work on another coffee bean or choice, and they have been able to politically and legally have it where you can't even do it yourself. And again, I admit, you might say, well, if I hide in my basement, maybe I can. But anyway, it's a serious crime if you try to develop a coffee strain that's better than theirs. Now, the protagonist, Kalen Vance, a man in his late 50s, a legendary Q grader, meaning he's a coffee taster, known for his golden palate. He is a relic of a bygone era because, you know, right now we do what we call, when we get a new batch of coffee and we are going to sell it to people. Now, again, I'm talking, 2025. You typically, coffee is rated, you buy it, it could be 85, could be 90, or a much, much less number in the sense of the level of the taste, the nuances of a very good bean. Now, because, of course, he's a relic from a bygone era, since they only have the Insta Brew. They don't need tasters, cuppers, as we call it. And so he's like, I have nothing to do. He's now a recluse, haunted by the memory of tasting the last true cup of geisha coffee before the blight took it forever. And you can see he is drinking the last cup of coffee. He secretly runs a flavor archive. Now, he's trying to say, look, I'm not feeling that the end is the end, so I'm just going to have it where I'm going to ensure I have the master, how would you say, recipe for what coffee used to taste like. So he uses a chemical synthesizer to recreate the taste profiles of extinct coffee, a hollow echo of the real thing. So he's trying to say, look, you know, I'm gonna, for preservation, I am going to have where we'll use a synthesizer and we will know what coffee used to taste like. The inciting incident, a mysterious, elegant woman, her name is Lara, appears at the door. She represents a clandestine group of collectors. She presents him with a small vacuum sealed bag of dark unroasted coffee beans, claiming they are pre-blight wild grown beans. So in other words, she could be arrested and go to jail because she has the coffee beans that could be from today. Anyway, these are wild grown beans, not manufactured, preserved in a forgotten seed vault. And I think you might know, and I can't tell you exactly where it is. I can't even tell you where it is. There's a kind of underground vault somewhere in the mountains somewhere, and then this is today, where because the recognition that due to everything that's been going on, I'm not talking just very recently, but they try to say, okay, we know darn well a lot of, and it's not just coffee beans, but other things could very well go extinct and it'd be gone. So this real location has it where they, under, heavy security, locked in the middle of a mountain, they have this, what we call a forgotten seed vault. So she says, okay, I brought these almost forgotten old real coffee beans from the seed vault. She offers him an obscene amount of money, there you go, to do one thing. Now, of course, I guess if somebody knocked at my door and said, Jim, I want to give you a lot of money to do something. In today's scam world, it gets worse every day. I get scam things every day, and and I even had a scam where I lost literally $25,000. 2 years ago because moving over into Davie, I needed a job. The job sounded good, but it turned out to be a scam. So, it's the old fool me once, but you're not going to fool me twice. But people tried to fool you every day. I mean, it's sad. It really is. Anyway, the money was to do just one thing. And this is where he got like, no, get out of here. All he had to do is roast them and taste them. Now, a lot of money to roast a cup of coffee and taste it and then tell her what they truly are. Of course, he's being like, yeah, well, I really trust this. Anyway, part 2, an impossible note. The ritual, Kyle reluctantly agrees. He undertakes the sacred lost ritual of roasting the beans. The process is described in rich sensory detail. The smells of hay, then bread, then first crack, which he hasn't heard in 30 years. The aroma is intoxicating and complex, filling his sterile lab with the ghost of a vibrant past. Now, why I liked going into this is, I didn't start drinking coffee until 2017. Shame on me. I was a Diet Coke guy. And nothing against Diet Coke, but, that's how I got my caffeine every day. My wife, God bless her, she said, you really got to stop drinking that Diet Coke. Drink coffee. I said, nah, because I remember from, let's say, the 80s, you'd go and there'd be a Bunn coffee maker, and there'd be coffee in a carafe on the top, and it probably has been sitting there for 7 hours. It's still hot. You take a cup, and without putting fake Cremora, nothing against Cremora, and a lot of sugar, it would be terrible. So that was my taste thought when my wife said, let's try to get you drinking coffee. I said, well, I never liked it. It was just bitter. And she said, well, let me make you a cup of coffee. And she did. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that I have been missing this. Because I'm 76 I'm sorry. And back then I was, about 68. And it was like, wow. Thank goodness. And you buy Diet Coke, If you want to change, you get Coke Zero. I mean, it's like, what's the difference? The name. That's about it. So I was so captivated by this that I was like, I should have done this a long time ago. I loved it so much that I became a coffee snob, a coffee connoisseur, and I studied coffee every day. And I decided, even though I was still in my generator business, that I was going to start a coffee roasting business. And I did that, called Roasting Expectations. And I bought a roaster from Coffee Crafters, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And unfortunately, when we moved from Davie, Florida to Naples, Florida, I sold the equipment, which is, I wish now in retrospect, I have a little beside this. I'm in a building that's my content creation building in my office, I guess you might say. But I also have another little small storage building that was on the property when we bought it 2.5 years ago. And I'm hoping that I'm able to, even though I'm not young, have it where I can convert that building into and go back into the coffee roasting business, and go to farmers markets and when you roast coffee, you can, of course, really, there's so many variables that you can either make it a light roast, a medium roast, a dark roast. You can burn it if you go too far into the dark arena. And again, please follow this channel. Again, I have an animal channel and this coffee news. I'm going to be doing different things like this. And by showing you people being unscrupulous and how popular coffee is today, that we don't know what the future is. But if I'm able to start roasting again, I buy my coffee, or did when I'm roasting, because you buy green beans. That's how, once the beans come off the tree, there's a cherry, basically, that grows on the trees. And again, Arabica at the 3 to up higher, altitude. You have to process and take the mucilage off the coffee beans, and in most cases, each coffee cherry has 2 coffee beans, or they have. And I'm actually got this coffee now called Peaberry. It's kind of like a freak in that, as I just mentioned, a cherry, when it's processed, has 2 separate coffee beans. And that's why they kind of look like you're seeing they're flat on one side, around on the other. It's because, again, you've got 2 beans. I don't know if I can show you what I'm talking about. You have 2 beans that are like this, and they get separated. So one side has a flat side, the other side has the round side. So the Peaberry is kind of a mutation, not what you're thinking in the bad sense of mutation, but it only has 1 bean. So if you think about it, when somebody is processing that, they're going to now, if it's Peaberry, they're only going to get 1 bean per cherry versus 2 beans per cherry. So you kind of would probably expect that coffee is a little bit more expensive, and it is, because it's great. Another coffee I started to do a present. Well, I put together. I really have it ready to go, but I haven't done it. It's kind of another type of coffee that goes through an animal's body, and I'll say no more than that because I'm gonna do a presentation. And the weird thing, you'd say, what? How does it get out of the body? Well, just guess. And you'd say, oh my God. Believe it or not, of course, they process it after it goes through the animal, and it's a particular animal with enzymes and all that stuff. And yeah, of course, would I drink it? Probably, because again, or use it to prepare coffee, because they make sure it's processed properly and it's not a dangerous coffee, but it's significantly more expensive because you got to feed it to this animal. I know it's weird. And you got to collect, what, and then process it. So I hope I haven't grossed you out, but it's true. And that will be a topic for another day. All right, back to the story. The tasting, also called the cupping. Now, what people do when they cup, they prepare coffee, and there's nothing done to the coffee except brew it, and they sip it. They go, and they pull it up into their mouth, and they then, believe it or not, they spit it out. But and that's how they rate. Let's say they have a Yugoshav chef from Ethiopia, and before they want to sell to someone, and like I said earlier, that I buy green coffee beans when I'm roasting, able to do roasting, and I do it again. Genuine Origin, you can get I buy 65-pound bags of coffees from different, areas in the world. And typically I always would buy Arabica. And it would have been from first the farmer, and then I think Genuine Origin also does it. They take a sample and they brew it very non-complicated, nothing added to it, just water. And they sip, and they have like 10 cups or black coffee, and they just go, and they spit it out. And they kind of get a feel for it, and they rate it. And again, anything above 80, and it's just kind of a unique number. Of course, if it's 85, it tastes a little bit better. If it's 90, woo, you're getting there. It can go a little bit above that. But if you've got a real inferior coffee, it won't cup well. And what they also pick up from this is basically how good it tastes, and they rate it. And of course, if it doesn't score well, I mean, they'll be honest about it, but the expectation is if you're buying an 85 coffee versus a 75 coffee, the 85 is going to be more expensive. And what they do, what they do is and again, I got to be honest, since I don't drink black coffee, I do lattes with a little sweetener, sugar-free, etc. And they will say it tastes like there's some chocolate and orangey. So they really will say, okay, it scores 85, and it has tones of, chocolate, orange, different things. So it allows you to say, well, I know what I'm looking for. I want a good scored coffee, and I want one that has these extra, not added to it, tones of, as I said, chocolate and a whole bunch of different. Now, the one thing I want to differentiate from that is that you can buy coffee that has been flavored. I have never touched them, and I won't, because there's just something to me that's wrong with that. And I'm not picking on any of the brewers, the companies you can buy coffee from. But yeah, you want the real thing, and I'm saying it's not that it's not real coffee. It's just they put a a form of something makes it taste different. I'm not even sure what they put in it as to flavoring it. That would kind of creep me out a little bit, to be honest with you. So, I mean, I'm fine with just my latte with milk and a little, sugar-free type, creamer, you might say. Anyway, he's cupping this. Kyle tastes the coffee. His senses are overwhelmed because remember, he's gone 30 years without being able to taste the real thing, the real McCoy, as we would say. He tastes notes that shouldn't exist together. Perichar, the smell of rain on dry earth, sun-baked leather, fermented jasmine, and a strange lingering mineral note that tastes like electricity. I can't even really explain what electricity tastes like, because and I'm a generator guy. You never want to get to where you've got a problem with electricity. Anyway, it's unlike any coffee varietal he knows. It's ancient, yet new. The discovery, this coffee has a strange physiological effect. For a fleeting moment, Cale's mind becomes incredibly sharp. He remembers a forgotten childhood memory with perfect clarity. He realizes the coffee isn't just a relic, it's a powerful neural enhancer. The impossible note is the taste of heightened cognition. Now, if he hadn't had real coffee in 30 years, when I wake up and, I'm half awake, half asleep or whatever, half awake, it's just wonderful to drink coffee because, you sip it. I don't drink it fast. And you say, wow, and my wife will say, I'm not even going to talk to you until you finish your coffee. So you can tell how important that is. Now, here's the betrayal. Before he can tell Alara, his lab is raided by Aurora Corp's black-clad security force. Remember I said earlier that anybody that's caught doing something coffee-wise other than Aurora Corp, you are in trouble. And I know it's like, wow, really? Anyway, he barely escapes with a handful of the roasted beans and one single green, unroasted. So in other words, when you buy coffee, it comes, as they call, green. Now, looking at the picture, it's not as green as that, but, what the point is. It's not roasted, and so he pocketed this. He sees them take Alara, the lady that brought him the money and the bag of coffee. She gives him a subtle look. Was it a warning or a signal of betrayal? We don't know yet. Okay, part 3. The hunt for the origin. On the run, Kyle, now a fugitive, Aurora Corp has labeled him a bio-terrorist. He realizes they weren't just after beans, they wanted his analysis. They need to palate to understand and replicate the coffee's effects. So in other words, the coffee they have is worth nothing in the sense of value or benefit to anybody drinking it. It's the only thing you can get, and you pay what you have to. So they certainly, with their security force, they're trying to find anybody that has the real stuff so that they could get the analysis and be able to create, again, all themselves, a better tasting product. They don't want competition. They just want to have that they are the only ones that can have the coffee. Anyway, decoding the bean. Using his old contacts in the underground botanical world, Kyle analyzes a single green bean. The genetics are baffling. It's not an extinct species, but something that never existed. It seems to have been bioengineered with extremophile fungi, allowing to grow in impossible conditions. So 2077, unfortunately, the way the world's going, it wouldn't be where, in general, you'd be saying, well, the coffee belt around the equator, there's no coffee growing anymore. Anyway, the ghost of the past. The coffee's unique mineral taste haunts him. He cross-references geological data with old coffee growing maps from the archive. And there we go. You see around the coffee belt around the equator, searching for a place with that specific soil profile. So he's trying to figure out where this unique coffee from the young lady was grown. And as you would expect, he's not trying to capitalize. He's just saying we want it like the old days of having varieties of different coffees. So anyway, a series of geothermally active caves on a forgotten island. We love islands. I love islands. I love caves. Anyway, it is near the Galapagos, a place believed to be barren. See how this is like pretty amazing. The revelation. Kyle realizes the story of the Great Blight might have been a lie. He suspects Aurora Corp didn't save coffee, they replaced it. They engineered the blight to wipe out their competition, and their competition was nature. So they wiped out that it could grow anywhere on the earth. To create a monopoly on caffeine, the world's most ubiquitous drug, the new coffee is one thing that can break their hold. So you can see where they're going with this. And he is, one of the guys with the white hats, as the lady was too. The terror of truth, and this is part 4 and the last part, the journey. Kyle charters a rickety transport to the island. Again, he's figured out what he just was able to sample, and luckily he didn't get caught, but he was able to sample where this was grown. So using the last resource that he had, he got this boat and went to this island in the middle of nowhere. The living library. Inside the geothermal caves that you saw, he finds an entire hidden ecosystem. a small, self-sufficient community of renegade botanists, I'm sorry. I'm so good at messing up on pronouncing. Please forgive me. Anyway, this is Alara's people, the lady that brought him the beans and the money. So here they are in a secret island where no one knows about, and they're inside another cave. They are the guardians of this new species of coffee, which they call cognita. Cognitive. When he tasted it, he said, "Ooh, I'm remembering things that I hadn't remembered forever." Maybe that's a treatment for Alzheimer's. That's a sad point of where we all worry that we're going. They explain it was created to be humanity's next step, a symbiotic plant that enhances memory and focus, intended to help solve the world's problems. Okay, and here goes the climax. This is the end. And I know this has gone on for 46 minutes. When I get into these, I just love talking about it. I'm sorry, but, I always look at, when I do a long presentation, and I have to do it too. Sometimes when I look, I'm going through other channels, and it's 10 minutes. Oh, I can watch 10 minutes. If it's 46 minutes, I'm like, oh, I don't have the time to do that. But there's nothing in what's good about it is you can watch how much you can now and go back to it. Or if you feel it wasn't that exciting, you don't need to go back to it. But that's what happens. And I'm not good at telling short stories. Anyway, Aurora Corp forces, led by their ruthless CEO, track Kyle to the island. They don't want to cultivate the coffee. They want to weaponize its neural enhancing compound and destroy the source to protect their monopoly. A tense standoff ensues, not with guns, but with science and ecology. Kyle, using his profound understanding of coffee and the cave's delicate environment, creates a chain reaction, triggering release of volcanic steam and spores that makes cognita plants temporarily inert and unharvestable, but not dead. So he creates a trick that has it where Aurora Corp is going to go, oh man, they were able to destroy this new wonderful coffee and we're not going to be able to get it. Well, and I know in stories, it doesn't all have to be, how would you say, true, but he does it so they don't get it and they don't think it's even available. So, the resolution. The Aurora Corp's mission is a failure. Their CEO is exposed. Now, yeah, here he is, and you're probably saying, and he's being arrested, and he shouldn't be smiling, but you know how that goes. They're thinking, well, I got great attorneys, so I'm going to be fine. Kyle stays with the Guardians, using his last palate not to taste the past, but to keep or help cultivate a new future. The final scene is taking his first sip of a fresh cup of cognita, but this time he's not tasting for analysis. He is simply enjoying it. A look of profound peace on his face as the world outside begins to change one cup at a time. And that comes to the end. So if you're a coffee drinker, I'm going to help you. And I've already done some presentations, longer presentations, and some shorts that kind of will slowly help, hopefully, if you have any desire to get into enjoying the intricacies of coffee and coffee roasting, or at least the very minor point that I always say to people. And, believe it or not, my wife drinks instant coffee. Now, I've done some homework in instant coffee. It's not where you're thinking it's fake. It is real. And they do a pretty good job on taking real coffee and just having it where you can, spoon it into a cup and it's coffee. And it's real coffee, so it isn't like fake stuff. But I like the challenge, the work. And what I do is right now, because I'm not roasting, but I buy roasted coffee beans and the coffee maker, and I've had many espresso machines, and I can go on and on and on. But they're in the hopper in my coffee maker. And when I say go ahead, I do a double espresso, and it grinds the beans right at that point, and then brews the coffee. Because what happens with coffee, that there's so many things that you think, oh, who cares? And people put their coffee beans in the refrigerator. And coffee beans, of trying to get the freshest and the best, isn't hard to do, but you have to know what you need to do. And again, I'm going to be working with a lot of presentations on where if you say, oh, I would like to roast my own beans. I mean, there's my first coffee roasting machine was called a Gene, Gene, coffee maker. And you can basically, it rotates the coffee, and it has hot air, and it makes sure you can bring it to whatever level that you want the coffee to be, either light, medium, or dark. And we'll get into all that roasting capability. And if I don't get into where I'm able to afford another coffee roaster, because I want to produce coffee and go to, let's say, locally farmers markets, and you roast it on a Wednesday, you let it rest, you package it 4 days later, you put it in a package that is airtight in a sense. It does have a one-way valve so that when coffee is first roasted, it gives off nitrogen gas. So that's why you don't want to do anything with freshly roasted coffee for until about 3-4 days. And if you're going to be, how would you say, a strict connoisseur, you will say, well, I can't do anything with this freshly roasted coffee for about 3-4 days. And then it's got its best for about 2 weeks. Now, after 2 weeks, and again, if you protected it, and I have them in containers that have one-way valves, air can't get in, nitrogen can get out. It's not where you'd say, well, I bought the coffee 2 months ago and it's been in my, these containers, and oh, gee, now it's terrible. No. If you're careful about it, don't keep it in the garage in the heat. Don't keep it in the refrigerator. Just keep it where it's safe from oxygen or air, and it will last a pretty long time. So when I open up and it's like you're trying to, with a stopwatch, but you'd open up the container that's on my coffee maker, and I open up my safe container, and I quickly put beans in, only the amount I need, and cover on the coffee maker, cover it right up. It's sealed again, and it's a little older coffee, so it isn't where it's like still off gassing, and it will last a pretty long time. So, and especially with how coffee keeps getting more expensive, you don't want to say, well, after 2 weeks I throw it away. No way. So anyway, I hope you learned something from this. And watch out for any scrupulous folks that want to try to capitalize and corner the market on coffee. We hope it doesn't happen. But anyway, thank you for being here. And I can even taste that coffee. But anyway, thank you, thank you, thank you. And hopefully I'll see you in another one. And please be well. I know things are kind of unusual in the world today. And we certainly try to say, hey, we want things to be okay for our future, especially people that are much younger. I mean, I shouldn't even say this, but if I was to leave this earth tomorrow, being 76, I've had a good life. Do I want to live longer? You betcha. But sometimes we don't always have that choice. But stay well and just try to do the best you can. And again, thank you for visiting Power Coffee News. And just to mention, we also have Phoenix Animal. Phoenix, as you know, is, and there was a famous movie, one of them I think was Jimmy Stewart, was the first one, where they had a plane, they crashed in the desert, in the middle of nowhere, and the plane was pretty damaged, and they had to work on trying to get the plane, by using bits and pieces of what was left, to where it could fly again. And that's called the Flight of the Phoenix. So my Phoenix Animal is just saying we want all our animals to be wonderful and be successful and have wonderful people that love them, as I love my little Jamie. Thank you again. And I appreciate your time. Take care.